Hey gun people, gonna do one on the Supreme Court here. Moki's up there by his flag, come and take it. The Supreme Court, it just came out, and I'm just kind of giving my input on kind of, why things are the way they are or whatever, but the Supreme's just agreed to hear the case on Obama's executive order. And I just did a video about they're going to take Petraeus' star, and why are they releasing that information, and then listen to that critical error. Well, here's another critical error when you're listening to the media, that you have to decipher what they really mean and what they're trying to do versus just, live in the sheep world where you're like, oh, they're being nice and they're keeping us informed and we should trust them and believe everything they say. So, why are the Supremes deciding to hear the case where Obama is signing executive orders? Now, this case is about, he signed an executive order saying, basically granting 5 million illegals residency or work cards or something if they do certain things. Well, the problem with that is, when he promised that and he did that executive order, he made the states agree to take care of all these illegals. So, when you pay taxes and you don't get any tax return and you're bitching about your taxes and this is high, and when you're complaining about it, realize that your state is supporting these illegals and they're paying to educate them for schools, for free lunches, for welfare, for Section 8 housing because they can't get a job, free medical when they go to the emergency room. So all these services are being paid for by your state. So basically it's a tax. So what Obama did is he taxed the residents of a bunch of states with his executive order saying, I'm going to make all these illegals legal and you states have to take care of them. How about that? So he can't do that. Or he shouldn't be able to do it. The Constitution says he can do whatever the hell he wants if he gets away with it. And he got away with it. Well, some states got together and sued him for that. And said, you're putting a tax on us. You're making us financially responsible when you're setting rules up there. And you can't do that. If you're going to set rules, you're going to pay for it. So the states really don't care about the illegals as long as the feds pay for it. And if the feds are smart, they'll pay for it for a year, let it calm down, and then stop paying for it. But whatever. I mean, it's all about government ripping off another government, ripping off people to get raised taxes, whatever. So this went to a court. I think it went to Louisiana court, which was in Texas, because the state was the states got together and filed in Texas. So I think we're in the 5th district in Louisiana. I'm not sure. It may not be the 5th, but whatever the district is, Louisiana says you're right. The president can't do that. It's unconstitutional. Well, of course, the crooked-ass government, Obama, free money, wasting taxpayer money, millions of dollars, filed an appeal. And then it went up, and the next court said, you know what? We think the lower court's right. You can't do that. It's unconstitutional. You can't do it. Well, of course, it ain't my money. The government can spend all this money. President Obama has his people go out there and spend millions more to do another appeal, and now they've appealed it to the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court agreed to hear this. And the way the Supreme Court decides on what case, they get to choose what they hear. So you can file, I think there's like 10,000 filings a year on cases that they want the Supreme Court to hear, and the Supreme Court only hears 80 of them, about 80 a year. So how do they pick those 8? Well, it takes 4 justices to say, okay, we want to hear this. So when they get these writs or briefs or whatever they're called, I forgot the name, it starts with a C, I can't remember. But when they get these writs or briefs to say, hey, we want you to hear this case, it's reviewed, it's looked at by the clerks kind of review it, they send it to the judge, say, we recommend this, the judge says, okay, I want to hear it or I don't. If 4 justices out of 9 say we want to hear it, then the Supreme Court hears it. If they can't convince 4 justices to say yes, then they don't hear it. So why did 4 justices say we want to hear this Obama case? And which 4 justices did it? Because we know the Supreme Court has your liberal and your conservative side to it, and it slants. So if the conservative side said we want to hear it, then, again, this is looking with your critical eye, kind of seeing what's down the road, why people are doing things the way they do, being observant versus just a sheep running around saying, oh, that's great, the Supreme Court wanted to hear that, that's nice. Okay, there's a reason. Either the 4 liberals want to hear it, so they can reverse the lower court, or the 4 conservatives want to hear it so they can uphold that and put a stop on Obama. Now, if I had my guess, I'm saying it's the 4 freaking libs that want to overturn the other judges that made reasonable and common sense, because that's unauthorized in liberal la-la land. You can't use your head, and you can't restrict government, and you can't control the liberal party from doing their ignorant shit and wasting money. So I think the liberals, the 4 liberal justices, said we want to hear this so we can try and support Obama. Because all they got to do is turn one person to vote with them, and they get to overturn the lower court because it'll be a 5-4 decision. So, which reason did the Supreme Court want to hear this? You know when we'll know? When the ruling comes out. When we find out what 4 justices want to hear it and what the ruling is, then we'll know why they took this case. It's either going to be to uphold the court, which I doubt because conservatives are usually weak and they're reactive and they don't want to stand up and fight for the country, so they're just going to sit back and let the liberals do all their bullshit and ruin the country. So I'm guessing the liberals want to hear it so they can try to convince one justice on the other side to vote with them and overturn the 2 lower courts. Now, the people ought to be able to say, you know what? This is a no-brainer. States' rights are supreme. Federal government's got no freaking business, and 90% of the shit they do, BLM, environmental, freaking all their BS, they got no business doing any of that shit. But you know what? When they start making states pay for shit that they do, states better stand up, or the federal government's going to break the states just like they're breaking the federal government. So, I mean, I wanted to cover this topic only to make hopefully people think that aren't really familiar with the Supreme Court and why they're doing it. And again, look at the news with a critical eye. Always look at it from a skeptical, unbelievable, don't trust the media, the government, or anybody until you prove otherwise. And don't believe just what you're told. So, I mean, you know, all the big news is, oh, the Supremes are going to hear this. This is such great news. We're going to get 9 freaking lawyers who can't agree on shit to decide something for the whole country forever. And half of them are on freaking life support and have nurses because they can't even wipe their own ass because they're so old, and they're still up there making rulings on the entire country. I just can't believe we don't have term limits on the Supreme Court, but that's another topic. All right, so that's what's going on with the Supreme Court wanting to hear this Obama case, for those that give a shit. All right, Smokey, you care, don't you? I know you do. You're a good kitty. You're a good conservative, gun-toting kitty.